Okay, here we are on the 24th of June 2020. Welcome back. My name is Perry, and this is Bull Fierce Training. And I'm just a little bit of forewarning. Working on streaming software. Going to do this broadcast with a piece of software called StreamYard. We're going to see how it works out, and hopefully it all goes smoothly. And as time goes on, we'll definitely be bringing on guests and be able to take on comments from people. And yeah, let's just go from there. So today, basically, I want to give you a quick rundown of me, how I got to where I am, why I do what I do, and my credentials, and where I got my knowledge. I don't think it'll be too dry. I think you'll find it pretty interesting. And well, why don't we just dive right into it and go from there? I can tell you that I've been in the game of bodybuilding in particular, because that's my passion. But weight training is part of bodybuilding, so they go hand in hand. But I've always been infatuated with bodybuilding since I was a young boy. I've been training people now for 43 years. Matter of fact, I turned 60 on July 7th, so a little over 2 weeks. I turned 60 years old. And I've gotten this far definitely because I have kept my training up. Simple as that. That and the good Lord watching over my shoulder. Where did I first realize, or when did I first realize, that I was so passionate about this? Because to stay with me for 40 some years, you have to have a passion for it. I'm definitely passionate about bodybuilding. Had my disappointments along the way due to factors that I couldn't control, but never lost my desire or my infatuation with the sport. And for those that approach it from a clean direction, it is a sport. For the others, it's not a sport. Sorry if that might offend some people out there, but unfortunately, that's the honest truth, and that's the way I see it. So first time, you'll have to pardon me here. This is my brand new studio, which isn't finished yet, and my new location, opening coming soon here, hopefully no later than the 1st of September, opening a brand new private training facility, and as well as numerous other things go hand in hand. A supplement line, a couple of books, and as well my own equipment line, because I was getting sick and tired of companies that put together stuff that looks space age but doesn't function properly. Anyways, getting back to my specific background. 6 years old. Yep, no kidding. 6 years old was the first time I realized that I love bodybuilding. I saw my first pictures. I'm dating myself here for sure, but back when I was about 6 years old, they had comics. They still have comics, but back then, comics was our computers of today. Everybody read them. Kids loved them. Archie, you name it, it was all out there. But in the back of all those comics was advertisement. Very hard to read advertisement, but advertisement nonetheless. Anyways, in the back of all those comic books was always this advertisement by Joe Weider at the time. There was another one by a gentleman by the name of Charles Atlas. I used to know his real name, but anyways, he went by Charles Atlas. And there was another one by the name of Universal something. At 6 years old, of course, being very naive, I just thought, oh, you just get in touch with these people and, you'll be able to build muscle. So anyways, I was 6 years old. I managed to get a few off my mother because that's all it took. And I was able to mail out 3 letters, and I sent off to these companies thinking they were going to send me a training program because that's what I wanted to look like. That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be Mr. Universe at 6 years old. Quite funny. Anyways, of course, my father's response to that, which was always his response, he wasn't a very good man, was that if you want to build muscle, I'll give you work to do, which he definitely did. And that's a whole other part of my story, but we'll put that aside for now. So I never got to jump right in at 6 years old. And through my early years and early teens, I did get into other sports. So I played baseball, I played football, I played hockey, and I did very well at all of them. I was athletic, not super gifted in any one of them. I was extremely good in hockey. Anyways, moving right along. So at 17 years old, I went on a trip, a vacation with my then girlfriend. And her name was Debbie, and she was a wonderful girl. Don't know where she is these days, but anyway, she was a wonderful girl. And she was six, we were both, yeah, no, we were both 16 at the time. I hadn't even turned 17. And she had an hourglass figure, very large busted, hourglass figure, pretty face. She caught people's attention, and she was one of those lucky girls that never ever had to work at it. That makes a lot of people envious. Never had to work at it, ate junk food all the time, never went to the gym. To be honest with you, I've never had a relationship with anybody that went to a gym on a regular basis. That's very odd, but I didn't. Anyway, so we went down to Florida to visit my sister, and we spent a lot of time down at the beach. And because my sister used to sell jewelry down on the beaches, and we went down there to help her out. And I wasn't the most confident individual at the time. I had definitely, my father had passed away at the age of 14. And when he passed away, I came completely unwound and I was getting into everything. I mean, I was smoking drugs, I was drinking lots. I was the epitome of everything that was unathletic. Anyways, we went down to Florida, and for what she saw in me, anyways, I don't even know what that was at that point, but obviously she saw something. And she was getting hit on constantly at the beach by much older men. And it was really beginning to, pardon my language, it was beginning to piss me off. Anyways, but she was very naive and very nice. She didn't try to encourage it whatsoever. You know, what was I going to do? She had a set of 38 double D breasts and hourglass figure, a tiny bikini, but she was very modest. She was a modest person. When we went out, she always dressed modestly. Everybody wore bikinis back then. That's just the way it was. Matter of fact, they had a lot more material in the bikinis back then than they do now. She wasn't wearing a thong, that's for sure. Anyways, yeah, I was getting a little bit upset almost every day going down there. And so it turned out to be not the greatest vacation because of my being a teenage boy, insecurities, and her getting hit on all the time. And I do remember at one point seeing a guy on the beach. And it was the first time I'd actually seen, I don't know if it was tough to tell, you put things in perspective, but I actually saw a bodybuilder, that was down there, and I was impressed. As a man, I can say I was impressed. I don't know how great a physique he actually had, but compared to me, he looked phenomenal. And that was just, somehow or another, it lay dormant in my mind for the rest of the trip, but it was there. And we got back to Ottawa at the time. That's where I was living, Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And I was just driving around. I don't even know if I was even employed at the time. And I drove by this place, and there was a fitness club of some sort. At least that's what I thought it was. And they were bringing in equipment. Don't ask me why, but I offered to help them bring in equipment, which I did. Turns out it was the first Nautilus club that opened up in Ottawa. And we're going to I've already done a little bit of a video there talking about HIT training and somewhat to Arthur Jones and Nautilus, but we're going to go more in depth in that in the future. So anyways, I helped them out, and in return, they offered to give me a good deal on a membership. So light bulb went off, and I thought, yeah, you know what? I think I'd like to try this. I was in terrible condition, and I needed a change in my life for sure. I came back the next day, and they put me through a workout, and I literally almost threw up. It was like I hadn't pushed myself with anything in such a long time. But I was hooked. That's all it took. One workout, I was hooked. I wasn't dreaming about Mr. Universe or Mr. America or anything else, but I knew that I wanted to get in good shape. I wanted to get rid of this fat. I wanted to have muscles because I'd known that ever since I was 6 years old. So I started training there. But I also was victim to the old ideology of what you had to do. So I would go in there and spend 2-3 hours in the gym, do tons and tons of sets and repetitions. And I never ever had a trainer. I taught myself from scratch. And but because I was very driven, I learned at that point that I was a very driven individual. When I had a goal, I was super focused. And I made it a point to I started buying every bodybuilding magazine. I bought a nutritional almanac. Couldn't look up anything online. There was no computers at that point. I opened and bought books and I studied the nutritional makeup or the macronutrients and micronutrients of all the different foods. That's what I did with my spare time. And within 1 year, I had actually dropped all my body fat and gained a little bit of muscle. But within 1 year, because I was so focused. But in the course of that, I was kicked out of the Nautilus Club. I started training with a couple of guys, and we didn't want to follow the instruction of training one set to failure, which is what they were pushing with everybody. And they thought we were, hogging the machines too much. Of course, we were young kids. We weren't the most probably. I wouldn't say I wasn't. I was brought up with politeness, beaten into you. So, but my other friends weren't so much. But still, I didn't want to train one set to failure. I thought that was ridiculous at the time. And anyways, so they finally told us, here, we'll give you the rest of your membership money back, but you're going to have to leave. So did. And I spent the next 6 months training in my basement with one of those guys. All we had was a little cheap Joe Weider style bench from Canadian Tire, literally those old vinyl weights. Used to do chin-ups on one of the support beams in my house. That's how we trained for 6 months, and I continued to make progress because I was focused. I could have trained with cement blocks. Really, that's how I was. And I can tell you, and I'm going to tell you about the different gyms I started out in and what they were compared to what people get to do these days. Anyways, so moving right along, I went from there. I think the next gym I trained at actually was the YMCA in Ottawa. Trained there for almost a year. And that was very funny because you actually had to go into the YMCA and almost build your equipment as you went along. For squat racks, they only had two of these little slender posts with a little flange at the top, and that's what the bar sat in. So very dangerous. And you always had to have a spotter, or you had to be really accurate. And many times we missed, and everything went flying all over the place. To do overhead presses, we used this pillar that was in the center of the room, and we would put a bench with this old piece of foam over the back of that so it wouldn't dig into you. And we basically use those same two stands to rest the bar on. We literally had those old metal collars. You had to take a wrench and put on and off the weight that you used. They actually had one pulley machine for rowing and for push downs, which was always falling apart. Literally, the was snapping on it constantly. And I trained on that for a year. And as a matter of fact, I did my first show training on that equipment. My first show was the Ottawa Bodybuilding Championships, and I placed third. And anyways, and I'll tell you right now, I've been natural, train natural. I preach natural. Anybody who doesn't train natural, as far as I'm concerned, is not a bodybuilder. You're something else, but you're not a bodybuilder. That's my opinion, and I'm not going to try and make friends with it. I just believe, I was so tired of seeing my sport being bastardized by what's going on in the world. Anyways, and it wasn't anywhere near back then, but it is today. But moving right along. From there, I got the chance to train in some half-decent gyms. There was Hull, Quebec, was right across the river from Ottawa, for those that don't have the geography down. And there was a place called Pierre Levesque that opened for a while. It was a good little gym. Then I went down. There was a place called Cégep and La Sagittaire, and trained there. And it opened for a while and it closed. A lot of gyms opened and closed back in those days. And jeepers, yeah. From there, I think I went to the Ottawa Athletic Club, and there I got to train there for a couple of years. Anyways, I was, and at that point, I trained at the Ottawa Athletic Club, and then I went into the Ottawa Championships the next year, and I placed third again. And I think I was still training there on my third attempt when I went in, and I mopped the floor with everybody in my third year. At that point, my body had gone through a big transition. I learned a lot. And at that point, I was about 21. I'll tell you a little bit more about my background, but I don't think I really want to divulge that today. We're just going to move right along here with some other things. So anyways, here I was 21 years old, and I lived the lifestyle. It was a lifestyle for me. And it was not about ego. It wasn't about getting noticed. I spent a lot of time down at the beach, but I was always stayed to myself. I didn't go flirting or try and hit on women. I went in the water constantly just because it was so hot. I would literally lay out at the beach every day. I would train, lay out at the beach, and go work in the evening. That was my routine. And I did it basically 6 days a week. I worked on different training systems. I tried them all. When getting ready for shows, I tried, different ways of approaching the show. Learned a lot. Like I said, never had a trainer. Always just did homework, researched, weighed things out, pros and cons, tried them all. Found ones that worked, find the ones that didn't work, finds that kind of worked. Different things. But I learned a lot as I went along. And then I went into when I turned 22, the year after I won the Ottawa Championships, I got very disillusioned with the state of the drug use back then. And it was nothing compared to what it is now. But I was totally disillusioned by what was going on as far as drugs in the sport. And I got out of competitive bodybuilding, but I still bodybuild every day. It was my life. It was what I wanted to do. It was what kept me focused and driven. But I didn't get on stage. I'll backtrack just a little bit. When I won the Ottawa City Championships, I also won Best Poser Award. Little note. I learned a lot about stage presence as well. Anyways, so I spent a couple more years, and I was training and just training. Still hard. I took a different approach. I tried different things. I did a little bit of circuit training. I tried different splits, weighed them all out, and put that in my bag of tricks. For some reason, when I turned 26 or 27, I decided that I wanted to go back on stage again. And it's not a word of a lie. I kept myself leaner but smaller. I never tried to gain any size. I just basically upped my intensity. I was already lean. I mean, I kept my body fat at that point, I'm going to say quite accurately, at somewhere about 7%, 8% all year round. That's where I kept it. The job I was doing at the time required it, and because I wanted to be the best at what I was doing. And then so I just basically upped my intensity for that show. And I took only 7 weeks to prepare for it, and I won again. And I won Best Poser again. But I tried another show right after that, and actually that was the Junior Eastern Canada. Is it Junior Eastern Canada? No, that was earlier on. No, that was after I won the Ottawa City Championships. I won the Junior Eastern Canada light middleweight division. But anyways, after the Ottawa show at 27, I went into another show about a month and a half later, and I did okay, but once again, everybody was drugged to the limit, and I got disillusioned again. And I said that was enough. I said I've had it with competition. It hurt a lot because I was still infatuated with the sport, but I didn't see me having a chance at making a living doing what I love to do. It's not like it is nowadays. You can make a living in a lot of different ways, in sport, and I'm learning that now, and that's part of the reason why I'm getting involved at the level that I am getting involved at now, and quite successfully. But so I kept training, and at 27 years old, I also decided to go back to school. And when I first finished high school, I didn't graduate at all. To show you how I just was not happy with the world, period. And I decided that I could have easily graduated. All I had to do was take one more course. I decided to take half a day of school in my last year in grade 12, and knowing full well that it wasn't enough to get me to graduate. And I didn't care. I didn't have a math or a science past grade 10. And but I was not stupid. I always did in grade school, elementary school. I was always top of my class. But things to do with home life, my father in particular, it was a big turnoff. Anyway, so I went back to school and I graduated with honors with the second highest marks in the school. I got accepted at 10 different universities, and I literally decided last minute to take the course in the University of Alberta in lab medicine, which I thought was just a good choice, was a good fit for the things that I found interesting in life. And I pursued that. I drove to Alberta. Literally the day I got into Alberta and into Edmonton, the day we had to do all the sign up for university, for school. And yeah, so I started my courses. Soon learned that I really didn't like it, but I don't quit at anything. So I finished after my second year. Yeah, then I decided this really wasn't for me, but I thought, I got to finish it. So I did. I got my degree in lab medicine and never pursued it. But while I was, just as I finished university, so I was now 35 years old, I got this craving again to get back on stage. I had already been keeping myself in great condition. I went to school, I worked, and I trained. That's what I did. 5 years, I didn't even go out on a date. So from 30 to 35, I didn't even go out on a date. I was just focused on other things, and it just wasn't high on my priority list. So I decided I would go into the Alberta Bodybuilding Championships. And just to show you my personal makeup, in order to do that show, I was going to school full time, which was a very horrendous workload. The first 2 years of our courses were involved with our courses were taken with the doctors and the physiotherapists. And we basically competed against each other on the bell curve. On top of that, I worked 40 hours a week for Pure Later Courier, a job that I held for 21 years altogether. And I trained and competed for the show, the Alberta Championships, which I won. And two things about that show winning. It was the first time they decided to do drug testing, although I know how inefficient the drug testing is that they do. It's pathetic, but at least they were doing it. I won the show. I was also the only class winner that didn't test positive because all the other ones were using, I could tell. And the saddest part about that was, even though those people had already had all tested positive, they didn't take away their status or the winning. There was additional gifts given out for those wins. There was a trip for two to Hawaii. There was a set of nice watches, which were both given to the overall winner, and he tested positive, and they still give him because they handed it out right there. Didn't even wait for the test results to come back. And then I guess they didn't want to deal with the embarrassment or whatever, but all that should have come to me, and it didn't. And I was, needless to say, I was very upset about all that. I knew one of the people high up in the IFBB and in Alberta Bodybuilding Association, and I discussed with him that I was totally disgusted with how they dealt with that. And I never stepped back on the stage after that. I still loved the sport and I still trained, but I never competed again. The real interesting thing about the Alberta Bodybuilding Championships was that was the first time I decided to pull out all the stops and try a whole different training approach. And that's when I ventured into high intensity training. A little bit of background again, even though I've already covered this in a video. High intensity training was brought into the limelight, so to speak. The gentleman who produced the Nautilus machines, Arthur Jones. Anybody who wants to Google Arthur Jones, you'll find out a lot about the man. Very peculiar in many ways. Self-made multi-millionaire, in hands in many things, did a lot of things just for interest's sake. Very, very interesting individual. From there, Mike Menser actually did some work with Arthur Jones, and him and Casey Viator and Ray Menser as well all did some work with Arthur Jones, and they took his ideas. Arthur Jones basically determined through his studies and through observation that there was no reason to be doing countless sets and repetitions. And in order to invoke change in the body, a physiological change, you basically just had to create put a workload against the muscle, break it down, cause it to get bigger and stronger, or bigger or stronger, or both, in order to compensate and from damage that's just been done. Because when you're training your muscle, you're not making it grow, you're actually damaging the muscle, and it's regenerating. That put together with maximum rest, maximum recuperation, would produce the best results. And all of his findings were, scientifically based. He wasn't some joke or some weirdo, Arthur Jones. He was a brilliant man. And Mike Mentzer took that and basically he commercialized it to a certain point, and he marketed it as heavy duty style training. It was called heavy duty training, which is a bit of a misnomer, because it really has little to, yes, it is about using heavy weights, but it's not about really the weight. It's about the intensity level with the weight. So, just because you couldn't do a press behind neck with 300 pounds didn't mean the system wouldn't work for you. So that was a bit of a misnomer, but he marketed that and did very well. And Mike Mentzer was known for having a very Herculean physique. Those of you who know anything about bodybuilding at all, I'm sure they remember one of the cover photos on Weider magazine. He's wearing some white trunks, and his physique looked great. He just looked great. And he looked very Herculean. He's the first man ever, and I think the only man ever, to have a perfect score on stage, and more than once. He was also super intelligent. Anybody ever want to Google or any of his YouTube, even though it's not the best quality, and very intelligent man to listen to. Sad to say that he didn't even make the age of 50. Both him and his brother Ray died within, I think, a week of each other. Very sad. Then along came Dorian Yates, and anybody in the bodybuilding world knows exactly when Dorian Yates arrived on the scene, it was a game changer. He basically took HIIT training to a whole new level, and he was the dawn of the mass monster age. I can tell you, I don't have a lot of respect for most bodybuilders today. I don't. Not as people. I don't know them as people. And I'm a Christian person, and I'm not perfect, and I don't claim to, be perfect. But the drug aspect has ruined this sport. So the people that take any type of performance-enhancing drugs, you're not bodybuilders at all. You're basically a symbol for the drug world, for the pharmaceuticals. That's all you are. These so-called gurus, they're not gurus. They're basically drug chemists. That's all they are. And anyways, that aside, there aren't too many bodybuilders that I actually like to listen to, but Dorian Yates is one, and for several reasons. One is because he actually, has taken this style of training, brought it to a whole different level, added his own, alterations to it, and which isn't a tremendous amount of change. He just has a little bit of a different philosophical approach to certain things, minor stuff. Also a very intelligent man to listen to. Always comes across as very humble, not like so many in the world of fitness and bodybuilding. So many brash attitudes, and it's disgusting, to be honest with you. I hate being associated with that type of thing, but that's them anyways. I know it's not me. Dorian, my hat's off to him. I don't respect him for the fact that he took drugs like everybody else, but they all did. But I do respect what he did with that, because he didn't do anything anybody else wasn't doing, and he did it better. And he was very modest about it. So hats off to him. And I would listen to any of his stuff in seminars. The only difference with Dorian was that he used a couple of extra sets that Arthur Jones wouldn't have done. A lot of it had to do with warm up. Of course, he was so incredibly strong that there had to be some minor changes. Otherwise, there would have been even far more injuries than he incurred. And basically, injuries is what ended his career. So anyways, like I said, just a quick note, 35 years old, I was back back on stage again and loving it. Then to move along from there, when I was in 2011, I suffered a heart attack. really not knowing why. But I had a good lifestyle, didn't smoke, barely had a drink, still trained. There was other things. I was building businesses, and there was a lot of stress going on. Stress was a major element in my life, and I'm quite sure that that was the actual cause. I didn't have high blood pressure, didn't have high cholesterol, and nothing. But I suffered a major heart attack. I almost died. And the doctor said I was very lucky to still be alive. And when I came out of that, I was frightened about what I could do. I didn't know if I should be training anymore. Or they were telling me, oh, you can only lift 5 pounds. I mean, literally, you only lift 5 pounds? 5 pounds at what? So, of course, I've always trained through I never had a major injury because I've always trained smart. And I took all my recuperation under my own hands. I had to do a little bit of their physio rehab at the beginning because it was just part of the healing process. But as soon as that was done, I was on my own, and I came back quite well. But I still wasn't training at the level I was before, and dealing with some failing businesses and some failing things in my personal life. But I was still had that desire to learn, and there was something about in the back of my mind. I was always thinking, I have some unfinished business. As much as I don't like what's going on in the world of fitness and bodybuilding, I have some unfinished business, and I got to take care of it. But then, in 2016 of June, I got horrendously ill and almost died twice. I ended up my first stretch in the hospital for 6 months. I had several surgeries. One of those surgeries almost killed me, left me on life support. I went in June. I came out of that hospital at the very beginning of December. I had gone from 230 pounds to 169 pounds. I will be showing some pictures on my YouTube site. Anyways, yeah, you wouldn't have known I even touched a weight in my life. It hurt just to roll over in bed. I was in constant pain. I couldn't walk upstairs. My legs were like toothpicks. I hated who I was. Mentally, I was beaten. Physically, I was beaten. I lost my business. I lost all my financial strongholds. I lost my marriage, my grandkids, and eventually my house, along with my health. And to this day, I still have to take morphine 3-4 times a day to deal with the pain, because that wasn't the end of it. Anyways, they had done a surgery in that stretch when I was in the hospital. I had gone in October. They did a procedure on me, which was supposed to be quite low risk, no problems. Turns out they had caused some damage, caused a puncture inside, and then within 2 hours, they were calling my wife at the time, telling her that they didn't think I was going to live, and she needed to get back to the hospital. And they had brought me back in surgery. They opened me up, took out most of my pancreas, and sewed me back up, and we were just a wait and see game to see if I was going to live. And I did. Oddly enough, I did. I know it doesn't seem like, why would you be smiling about that? But I can tell you, this whole procedure has taught me a lot. Anyways, it wasn't over though yet. When I left the hospital, I still had 3 drains hanging out of my stomach. And was basically tied to a chair when I went home. That was life. There was nothing. I had no income. I had nothing. I was living on my own. Could barely take care of myself. And I also found out that family and friends are very hard to find when you're down like that. There was nobody around. But you know what? I wasn't beaten, because I had long before that, I had taken my walk back with Jesus Christ. I am a Christian. I'm not going to be pushing it all over the place on my YouTube channel, but I'm also not going to back away from it, because I don't deny my Lord and Savior at all. Anyways, he wanted me still to be in the game. So here I was. Anyways, so they were going to do another procedure on me in the summer of 2017, but my surgeon looked me right in the eye and he said, I don't know if you're going to live through it. So I looked at him and I said, well, I'm not sure if I'm ready to leave this world yet. And plus, I'm just not in a financial position. Like, there's too much, everything's in a mess. So I said, I'd rather just wait. I said, I will be praying a lot, and we'll see what happens. That's what I choose to do at this point. And he said, okay. He says, well, there's no rush, and we just don't see this situation is not improving here right now, and sooner or later it could get far worse. Luckily, for some reason, prayers paid off and time paid off, and the thing that was causing the major leakage had stopped. At least for all intents and purposes, it stopped, and they decided they would go in and do another procedure, which wasn't supposed to be anywhere as high risk, and it should take care of the problem permanently, and then I can go on with life. But it wasn't to happen like that. So anyway, so I went in, and supposedly when they went in, this pooling that they were supposed to take care of had spontaneously dissipated. And then they had closed me up. And anyways, I was supposed to get out of the hospital 3-4 days later. The night before I'm about to get discharged, they're cleaning my wound. And pardon my language, but they see there's shit coming out of my wound, literally excrement coming out of my wound. And I'm freaking. I'm going like, what the hell is this? Anyways, needless to say, the nurses got on the hotline right away, and in no time at all, I'm prepped for emergency surgery again, because they forgot to tell me that when they went in to do that surgery, they punctured my bowel. Yeah, they punctured my bowel. They sewed it up and didn't think it was going to be a problem, but they also didn't think they had to tell me, which they didn't. So that 5-day stay in hospital turned into another 6 weeks. I now had a 1/2 inch or a 3/4 inch tube in my gut again, this time inside my colon, which may turn out to be a permanent thing, a permanent bag now. And that's where I'm at. So I'm in there for 6 weeks while I'm in hospital. My female dog that I had, my boxer, she passed away, and a week later, my sister passed away. So it was not a good time. Anyways, I got out of hospital, and when I left there, I still had that major tube, one drain, and that major tube in my colon, and I had to deal with that for another 3 months. Finally, they decided to take it out. They hoped to create some type of what they call a fistula. Anyways, it did what it was supposed to do, but all of a sudden my painkillers were gone up in dosage again to deal with the pain. Of course, I couldn't work a normal job anymore, and life was what it was. So here I was at that point, because I'd gone in March of 2018. Anyways, I couldn't do anything for almost 3 months. And then I decided in August of 2018, I said, you know what? This isn't life. It's not enjoyable. I don't like who I am. I don't like what I'm doing. I don't see much of a future. I never thought about the idea of ending my life, but I do understand how people can feel like that sometimes. I just thought I've always thought that's a selfish act. I hope that doesn't, I'm sorry if that offends people, but I didn't want to be of that genre of people that did that. I did not want that. It had little to do with my Christianity either. Anyway, so I decided that I'm going back to the gym. I'm 169 pounds. I haven't been able to gain any weight back. Food tastes like crap. I have no capacity to eat. And I have no idea what to do, but I thought, you know what? I've always been able to take care of myself or get myself back on track by doing it my way. So I went back to the shout out to Glenda at the Anytime Fitness in Stony Plain, a wonderful lady. And I went in to see her because I had a membership there since 2014. And I told her, I said, I want to start training again, Glenda. I just don't know if my body can even take this or how it's going to react. So can we just do this on a month-to-month basis? And she agreed, no problem. After 1 month, I was hooked again. I was slow every week. I was training a little bit more intense, a little bit more. And at 1 month, I decided not only am I going to keep training, I'm stepping up the intensity. And I decided to go back into HIT training. Yep, I decided to go all out to high intensity. Sounds a little crazy considering my past, but I thought, you know what? If I'm going to leave this world, I'm going to leave it on my own terms, and I'm going to be who I am. I'm not going to be afraid. I went from 169 pounds to 205 pounds in 3 months. I got rid of most of my body fat. Had gained a ton of muscle back, all natural. I don't think anybody would have faulted me for going on some type of TRT therapy at that point, just to gain back what I lost. But in my mind, I couldn't accept it. Couldn't accept preaching natural training all that time and then not do it myself. So I did it natural. The only thing I was ever taking was a protein supplement. I was taking creatine, B complex and C, and a multivitamin because they're water soluble. And that was it. And so now we're at January of 2019. And I decide that I'm going back on stage. And not just in the old man's group either. Pardon that to the older fellows that train and compete, but I'm going to go into classic physique and I'm going to go into the open class. So I'm training and I'm doing good. I'm steadily getting, I've never been a super strong bodybuilder anyways, but I have very small joints. I have a good frame, not the best muscle lengths all over, but I have some outstanding areas for sure. And anyways, I started training hard and it started getting better. I started getting more dialed in, more focused like I always was before. So anyways, there I was, and now we're at early March, and that's when COVID set in. And that was devastating for me. I had to leave a relationship I was in. I didn't leave the relationship at that time, but I left. I was living with her at that point and decided that I'm coming back to home. Not really home. I actually had to come back and live in a motel. Yada, 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 that goes on. Anyways, that's a whole other video. But I was training hard, and then the gyms all shut down. And I was devastated. I thought, man, this is the only thing that made everything worthwhile for me. Like, this is what made me feel good again, made me, I wasn't just your average trainer. This was going to be, I'd already decided I was going to create a YouTube channel, and I was going to get back into training people and basically culminate everything with basically a vlog, all my whole procedure, getting ready for the show. I'd have almost 10 months to get ready for this event, which is going to be in October of this year. And then that hit, and I lost 4 months. We just literally started training last week. And now I don't know where I'm sitting. I'm thinking, I don't like the idea of just, doing anything half-assed. And I don't do things like this just to do it. I do it to win. As ridiculous or scary as that sounds to some people, I fully expect to get ready for the show and win, 60 years old or not. Anyways, I'm not ruling out the show, but it's going to take me at least to the end of this month just to get my intensity level back up, and then we'll see from there, because I've lost a lot of what I had gained. I didn't have the availability of some people that have a place to train or some type of training. I had nothing. So, but I am back on track, and I haven't ruled it out. But if it doesn't work out for that, it's definitely going to be a show in early spring or summer next year. And even if I do the show in October, I guarantee you there's going to be some more shows in the spring or summer where I get the chance to train heavy, get myself into, that phase of things. I don't believe in getting extremely overweight anyways, but I mean, train a little bit, eat a little bit differently, train a little bit differently. And yeah, so I'm on the upswing. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling great for what I am. I mean, I rely on my morphine, or Dilaudid is what I take. To deal with the pain. I can't work like everybody else. So, but I thought, I'm going to change this all into there's no way I'm going to be, dealing with disability my whole life. I'm not going to die a pauper. So I've decided to venture down the road of creating my own private studio. I'm going to be training people in a private environment. I might bring on 1 or 2 other trainers. So if there's anybody actually watching this video and that's something that interests you, I'd love to hear from you. Not going to be interested in anybody who's just got a certificate from some course for a few weeks or a few months. Like I said, I have 43 years of training experience behind me and competitive experience. You don't have to have that, but I want people with some background and willing to, approach things from the same psychological point of view that I want. Um, Anyways, opportunity there. I'm hoping to actually get the second unit here where I am and create basically a holistic center to go with this. Uh, Started building my own line of equipment, which is going to be marketed this month. I have some specials coming up this month, some good deals on some benches. I want to basically open up a section, have some offices with some individuals for some enhancement services, be it physiotherapists or chiropractors, or massage therapists, aromatherapists, anybody like that. I basically want to create a whole system of well-being. I want to train people to make this a part of their lifestyle and have them have the opportunity to work with other professionals in the areas that would help them bring out the best in themselves for this life. Approach this as a lifestyle, not just some goal. That's fine if you have a goal, you want to drop 40 pounds or 30 pounds, whatever, and get ready for the beach or go on your trip next year. But I hope to take it so much further with people. So, like I said, it's going to be, it doesn't look like a whole lot here right now, but it is in progress, and I do expect to open the doors to the private sector no later than 1st of September. I'm selling some memberships at a good discount ahead of time. They will be done. You can buy either hourly packages, monthly, tri-monthly, or even semi-annually. That's all available. You don't actually pay for a gym membership because you're being paid to train. We are being paid to train you. So that's the relationship. Anyways, that's a little bit of background of who I am. Summarizing it all up, 43 years of both competitive and non-competitive training. I have several titles to my name. I have a degree in lab medicine. Been training people for many, many years, off and on. I have a lot of knowledge on different types of equipment, different approaches, and we can find something that works for anybody. I don't care what you're up against, whether you're 100% healthy, whether you have some type of limitation, and getting you into the right mindset. That's what I want to do. I want to produce winners. And winners are just those people that actually go out there and give it 100%. It's not a matter of statement of, how big you get compared to the next guy. It's what you've done with yourself, where you've taken yourself from point A to point B. Along this journey, I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to ruffle a few feathers because I am going to be doing some discussions and video on what I see going on around. Other people that do video, do online training, or they do they have videos posted on different things. I'm going to give my critique. I'm not going to get into any battles with these people, at least I hope not to. I like to have intelligent discussions. I'm also not going to be buying the crap, though, that a lot of them are selling, because most of them are not even, they don't even have a background. They should not be training people. The knowledge they have for the videos they're trying to produce is so limited that they're going to, not only are they not telling it correctly, they're going to get people hurt. And I'd like to stomp that out. I want to take the sport that I love and have been in love with my whole life and bring it back into the glory of what it should have been. A healthy sport, not an unhealthy sport. Something that makes you stronger in so many more ways, not just physical. Anyways, my name is Perry. This is Bull First Training. God bless every one of you. Take care, and please subscribe to my channel. Love to hear from you. Bye for now.